I want you to picture a very specific scenario.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you know where this is going. It is a sweltering July afternoon, specifically like a 101-degree day.
The worst kind of a day.
Exactly. And you are sitting in your living room, maybe you're trying to watch TV or, get a little work done, but you just can't focus.
Right, because the air is getting heavy?
It's thick.
Yeah.
The air is just getting stuffy. You look up at the ceiling vents and absolutely nothing is happening.
Nothing at all.
So you step outside to investigate, and your AC unit is just sitting there in the baking sun making this dull, ominous humming sound.
Yep, the hum.
The fan isn't spinning. The heat is just radiating off the metal. It's a nightmare.
It really is. That hum is basically the universal soundtrack for a ruined weekend. I mean, it is the sound of machinery just screaming for help while your house slowly turns into an oven.
It truly is. And today, we're going to explore the hidden mechanics of your home's most vital summer appliance.
A very timely topic?
For sure. We're pulling our source material today from this really fascinating HVAC service discussion based out of Kingfisher, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they know heat.
Right. If there's any place that understands extreme, relentless thermal stress, it's Oklahoma. We are talking about technicians operating on the literal front lines of summer heat.
They definitely see these systems pushed to the absolute breaking point day after day.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive isn't to turn you into a certified technician.
Yeah.
Instead, we're focusing entirely on this one tiny, unassuming component hidden inside that middle box outside your house.
It's always the small things, isn't it?
It is. It's a single component that holds the literal power to destroy the most expensive part of your entire system if you aren't paying attention. Okay, let's unpack this because I am genuinely fascinated by how this mundane, $20 part can hold a $3,000 machine hostage.
It's wild. It is a textbook example of how massive, complex systems rely on these incredibly fragile foundations. You know, to understand why your house is heating up and why that metal box is just humming aggressively at you, we have to look past the giant fan.
Right.
We have to look at the hidden culprit, which is the capacitor.
The capacitor. Okay, so when I hear that word, my mind immediately goes to a car engine.
Sure.
Like a starter motor or maybe a spark plug. I just imagine this simple little spark that, gives the AC a massive jolt to wake it up, and then it just goes to sleep while the heavy machinery runs the show. Is that how it works?
That is actually a very common mental model, but it's mechanically incorrect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that misunderstanding is actually where a lot of homeowners get into trouble. A capacitor isn't just a starter plug. I mean, it helps a motor start, yes, but it also stays actively engaged to help the motor run correctly.
Wait, so it's working constantly?
Constantly. In your typical outdoor AC unit, this one little part is supporting both the massive compressor and the fan motor the entire time they are running.
How does it actually do that? Because I'm trying to picture what electrical help looks like here.
Okay, think of the AC motor turning in a circle. Because of how alternating current electricity works, there's this tiny dead spot in that rotation where the motor temporarily loses its pushing force.
Oh, okay.
So a capacitor acts as a localized energy reservoir. It's almost like an electrical spring.
An electrical spring.
Right. It stores up a charge and releases it perfectly in time with that dead spot, pushing the motor through the gap. It provides this constant rhythmic surge of torque. Just push, push, push.
So if that electrical spring gets weak, the motor gets stuck in that dead spot.
Exactly.
And it just sits there vibrating, which is that ominous humming sound I'm hearing outside.
You've got it. It's trying to spin, but it doesn't have the electrical push to overcome its own weight. And the funny thing is, for all the heavy lifting this electrical spring does, it is incredibly underwhelming to look at.
I was going to ask what it looks like.
If you open up the cabinet, it usually just looks like a small, shiny metal can. It looks like a metallic soda can, maybe a little smaller, with some wiring terminals sticking out at the top.
It doesn't look powerful at all then.
Not at all. But when that little metal can starts losing its ability to hold a charge, the entire system throws a fit.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and the symptoms, as noted in the source material, they're all over the place. You might notice the unit humming but not starting.
Right.
You might see the fan blades sitting completely still while the box just violently vibrates.
And I read this in the material too, the breaker in your electrical panel might just trip completely out of nowhere, right?
Yes, just kills the power to the whole thing. Or Even more frustrating, the system starts acting intermittently.
Intermittently, like it works sometimes.
Yeah, like it works perfectly fine on Tuesday morning, but totally stalls out on Wednesday afternoon.
Hmm.
Or the AC is technically running, but the fan is turning super slowly, and you can physically hear the compressor groaning under the strain.
Man, from the homeowner's perspective, they only know one thing: they're hot. And the house isn't cooling down. But for a technician walking up to this angry metal box, they have to somehow separate that symptom from the actual root cause.
Mm.
And that brings up the timing of it all, I think.
The timing is crucial.
Because these failures always seem to happen at the absolute worst possible moment. Here's where it gets really interesting. Does the extreme summer heat actually break the capacitor right there on the spot? Or was this thing already broken and the heat just finally called its bluff?
That is the pivotal question. The source material offers a really profound framework for this. They quote a phrase used by the technicians in Oklahoma: July removes the margin.
July removes the margin. Wow, I love that phrasing.
It's so accurate. The physics behind it tell the whole story. You have to consider the physical environment the machinery is fighting against.
Okay.
A capacitor can be slowly degrading inside, right? The chemical paste inside the metal might be drying out. It could be testing incredibly weak. And yet it can still manage to limp your AC system through a mild, 75-degree spring day.
Because the system isn't working that hard yet.
Precisely. On a cool spring day, the ambient temperature is low. The pressure of the refrigerant inside the copper pipes is relatively low.
So the motor has an easy job.
Exactly. The motor doesn't have to push very hard to compress that gas, so it doesn't need a massive amount of help from our electrical spring. The weak capacitor can just barely deliver enough torque to keep things turning.
It has a margin of error.
Right. But then July hits.
And it's 101 degrees outside.
Yes. Your outdoor unit is sitting in direct baking sunlight. The metal is scorching hot. And because it's so hot outside, the physical pressure of the refrigerant gas inside those lines skyrockets.
Oh, I see.
Now, the compressing motor isn't just trying to turn it, it's trying to pump against an immense, heavy physical wall of high-pressure gas.
So the load is suddenly enormous.
The load is massive.
Yeah.
The motor desperately needs a massive surge of torque from the capacitor to force its way through that dead spot. But the capacitor is weak. It can't deliver. The margin of error is gone.
So the heat didn't necessarily create the failure out of thin air?
No, not usually.
It just exposed the weakness that was already there. Like this system was essentially lying to the homeowner all spring, pretending it was healthy.
That's a great way to put it. Extreme environments strip away our illusions. Stress doesn't necessarily break a system from scratch. It reveals the microfractures that have been developing for months.
That is a powerful concept, just for everyday life, honestly.
It really is.
Stress exposes the edges. But let's bring it back to our sweating homeowner. The heat exposes the lie. The AC stops. The homeowner pulls out their phone, starts scrolling through online DIY forums, and they find out about this little capacitor.
Oh, the forums?
Right, they see it's just this tiny, cheap metal can that costs maybe 20 bucks. The immediate logical leap is, oh, thank goodness it's a cheap fix. I'll just order one and swap it out.
And that is a huge mistake.
Yeah, our source material makes it very clear that this assumption is a massive trap. So what does this all mean? Why is swapping a cheap part a bad idea?
What's fascinating here is a concept the technicians call the component autopsy.
Component autopsy.
Yeah. They emphasize that when a professional looks at a failed capacitor, they aren't just looking at a broken piece of trash. They are looking at physical evidence left behind at a crime scene.
The crime scene.
Yeah.
Because the internet DIY culture makes this look like swapping out a dead AA battery in your TV remote control.
Exactly. Just plug and play.
You pop the old one out, put the new one in, and you are back on the couch. But you're saying that approach is like taking a heavy painkiller for a broken arm.
It completely masks the symptom. You feel great for a few hours, but you have completely ignored the underlying trauma of the broken bone.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. You've masked the pain, but the arm is still severely broken. If a technician just swaps the capacitor and drives away without asking why it died, they're doing the homeowner a massive disservice.
Right.
The component autopsy means reading the physical clues. For instance, a technician will use a multimeter.
Let me stop you there, multimeter. Just to be clear for everyone, that's the handheld diagnostic tool, right? With the two little wire probes that electricians use to poke around and read electrical current. Yes, exactly. They use the multimeter to read the actual microfarads, which is the electrical storage capacity, to see how weak the capacitor truly is. But they also look at physical clues.
Like what?
They look at the metal can itself. Is the top of the can swollen outward like a bad can of soup?
Wait, why would it swell up like that?
Heat. Inside that can, there are layers of metal foil and a dielectric fluid, basically an oil. When the component is subjected to extreme stress, that internal oil physically breaks down and boils.
It boils.
It boils, and it releases hydrogen gas. The gas creates intense pressure inside the sealed can, pushing the top outward until it bulges. That bulge is a massive red flag.
It's literally a physical manifestation of the stress.
Yes.
What else are they looking for?
They inspect the contactor.
Okay, another technical term. What is the contactor?
The contactor is essentially the heavy-duty drawbridge for the electricity. It is a mechanical switch. When your thermostat inside the house calls for cooling, it sends a low-voltage signal to the outdoor unit, telling the contactor to snap shut. When that metal drawbridge closes, it allows the massive 240 volts of city power to flood into the compressor and fan.
Got it. It's the gatekeeper.
Exactly. But here is the catch. Every time that high-voltage drawbridge slams shut, the electricity actually jumps the gap a fraction of a second before the metal touches.
Like a spark.
It creates a miniature lightning bolt, an electrical arc.
Oh, wow.
And over thousands of cycles, that mini lightning bolt physically burns, pits, and scars the metal on the contactor. If the contactor is heavily scarred, the power flowing through it becomes dirty and inconsistent, which forces the motor to work harder, which in turn slowly murders the capacitor.
So a dead capacitor might just be the victim of a scarred contactor.
Precisely. Or it could be a symptom of a motor that is drawing way too much current because its internal bearings are failing.
It's all connected.
It is. Or a compressor struggling against a blocked refrigerant line. It could be bad wiring, or even low voltage coming from your neighborhood's power grid. A good technician is going to measure the compressor amps, which is simply a measurement of how much electrical current the motor is gulping down to do its job.
Right.
If the motor is gulping down way more current than it should, slapping a new capacitor in there is pointless.
Because the machine will just eat the new one. The environment that killed the first $20 part is still sitting there waiting for its next meal.
It will consume it rapidly. You have to find the cheapest correct answer, not just the cheapest guess.
That's a great rule of thumb.
If the capacitor is bad but everything else tests perfectly healthy, great. You got lucky. It just died of old age. But if the outdoor coil is packed solidly with dirt and dog hair, suffocating the unit and driving up the heat, then the dead capacitor was only one small chapter of the whole story.
Let's talk about the consequences of ignoring that story. Because if a homeowner just slaps a new capacitor in there, or worse, if they don't fix it at all, and just let the unit keep trying to force itself to run with a weak humming capacitor, what is the actual cost? The source material describes this tiny failure as the trigger for a catastrophic ripple effect.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to a fundamental law of air conditioning machinery. A weak electrical side brutalizes the mechanical side.
Brutalizes? That's a strong word.
It's the right word. The compressor is the heart of your system. It is a massive mechanical pump made of heavy metal and tightly wound copper wire, and it is already doing the absolute hardest job in the entire system on a hot day.
Okay.
When the electrical side or capacitor is weak, the motor inside that compressor simply doesn't have the torque it needs to start spinning.
I am picturing like an Olympic track sprinter, someone who is incredibly powerful, fast, built entirely for this specific job. But now, imagine that sprinter trying to run a race while someone is actively dragging them backward by a heavy backpack. Every single time they try to explode off the starting blocks, they are fighting this massive, unnatural physical resistance.
That's a great visual.
Every single start becomes this agonizing, damaging stress test on their joints and muscles.
Yes. Take that a step further into the mechanics of the motor. When that compressor motor struggles to overcome the heavy backpack, it starts pulling higher and higher electrical current just to try and force itself to turn.
Just to try and get moving.
Right. And more electrical current generates a tremendous amount of physical heat.
And heat is the enemy here.
Heat is the ultimate killer. Inside that motor, the copper wires are coated in a microscopic, incredibly thin layer of lacquer insulation. It is practically invisible.
Okay.
When the motor overheats because it's struggling against a weak capacitor, that internal heat slowly bakes and melts that thin lacquer insulation right off the copper wires.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Once that insulation melts away, the bare copper wires touch each other. The electrical current takes a shortcut, it shorts out, and the compressor is instantly dead.
Just dead.
It is permanently fused. Every single hard start, every single time you hear that ominous hum and the machine struggles to kick on, it is a violent stress test that is melting that insulation.
And a cooked compressor is a massive bill.
Oh, huge.
We're talking thousands of dollars. In a lot of cases, technicians will just tell you to replace the entire outdoor unit because the labor and parts to swap a compressor are so astronomical.
Exactly. It is a major financial disaster for a homeowner. And it all started with a cheap metal can that they ignored or misdiagnosed.
Now, in the sources, there's a mention of something called a hard start kit. When people realize their compressor is struggling to start, this seems to be another magic bullet they read about on forums. What actually is a hard start kit?
So, a hard start kit is basically a heavy-duty capacitor paired with a relay switch. If a normal capacitor is an electrical spring, a hard start kit is like strapping a temporary rocket booster to the motor to blast it past that dead spot.
A rocket booster.
It delivers a massive jolt of starting torque.
Well, that sounds great. Why isn't that just the standard fix?
Because, as the Kingfisher experts point out, they are not a magic bandage for a dying system. And now in the right situation, maybe on a specific older system that just needs a little extra help, or a system that has unusually long refrigerant lines, they can be genuinely helpful.
Right.
But they do not fix a system that is overheating because the outside coil is caked in mud. If the compressor's internal bearings are grinding and failing mechanically, a hard start kit might literally just buy you a few months of borrowed time before the motor completely melts down anyway.
It just forces the dying sprinter to run one more race.
Exactly. It has to be prescribed as part of a proper holistic diagnostic. It shouldn't just be a reflex action because you don't want to figure out the real problem. The weak capacitor is truly the first domino, and you can't just tape the dominoes upright and pretend the table isn't shaking.
The stakes are incredibly high here. A cooked compressor, a miserable summer, thousands of dollars out the window. So, what is the actual survival guide?
We definitely need one.
What is the safest, most effective way for you to react when your AC starts humming and the house starts getting stuffy? Because, full disclosure, I have read online forums where people genuinely suggest, hey, if the fan isn't spinning, just go outside, grab a long wooden stick, and push the fan blade through the metal grill to give it a physical jump start.
Oh, please do not do that.
Please lay down the law for us. What is actually safe?
This raises an important question about the sheer invisible danger of what we are dealing with. Let me be unequivocally clear on this point. Do not go out there with a stick. Do not go out there with your hands to spin the blade. The fundamental rule you have to remember when dealing with HVAC equipment is that small does not mean safe.
Because we are dealing with high voltage.
Lethal high voltage. The cabinet of your outdoor unit houses 240 volts of electricity coming straight from your electrical panel.
That's a lot of juice.
But the danger isn't just the live wires. Remember how we defined the capacitor as an electrical spring or a localized reservoir?
Right. It stores energy to push the motor.
It is designed to hold a massive amount of electrical energy, like a dam holding back water. A capacitor can hold a lethal electrical charge long after the power to the entire unit has been completely shut off.
Wait, really? Even if I flip the breaker off?
Even if you flip the breaker inside your house, even if you pull the physical disconnect box outside.
The disconnect box is a little metal box mounted on the siding of the house next to the AC unit, right? Where you literally pull out a plastic block to physically sever the power wires.
Yes. Even if you sever the power completely, that little metal can inside still holds its charge. You could walk up to it thinking it is dead, touch the wrong terminals with your bare hand or a metal screwdriver, and it will violently discharge all of that stored energy directly into you.
It acts like a loaded mousetrap.
A very dangerous mousetrap.
Yeah?
Furthermore, even if you manage to safely discharge it with the proper tools, wiring a replacement capacitor incorrectly because you watched a blurry 5-minute video online can instantly fry your fan motor, cook your compressor, or send a surge back into the house and destroy the control board.
Yikes.
The internet makes it look like swapping a battery. It is not a battery. The stakes are entirely different.
So, we keep our hands out of the electrical panel entirely. What can you safely do when the house gets hot? The experts in the source material laid out a safe checklist, didn't they?
Yes, a very clear, safe checklist of things you should do before calling a professional. First, start inside the house. Check your thermostat settings.
Sounds obvious, but...
You would be shocked how often a service call is just a thermostat that got accidentally bumped to heat or turned off. Make sure it is actually set to cool and the temperature set point is reasonable.
Check the simple stuff first.
Second, check your indoor air filter. The entire system relies on airflow to move the heat. If your filter is clogged solid with a heavy blanket of dust and pet hair, the system literally cannot breathe, and it will cause massive pressure issues that lead to failures outside.
Okay, check the filter. What about the electrical panel?
Look at the breaker panel inside your house. Find the breaker labeled for the AC. If it has tripped and flipped into the middle position, you are allowed to reset it exactly one time.
Only one time. Why not just keep flipping until it stays?
Think about the mechanism of a breaker. A breaker trips for a reason. It is a safety gate designed to stop the flow of electricity when the AC unit pulls too much current, protecting the wires in your walls from melting and catching fire.
Oh, okay.
If you reset it and it immediately forcefully trips again, the system is screaming at you that there is a dead short circuit or a massive mechanical failure outside. If you keep forcing it, you are actively bypassing your home's safety system. You will cause catastrophic electrical damage or start an electrical fire. Stop immediately after one try.
Okay, one reset. What can we do outside?
Outside, you want to make sure the unit isn't being physically suffocated. It needs to pull massive amounts of air through those metal fins to release the heat from your house. Clear away any tall grass, weeds, or those fluffy cottonwood seeds that stick to the metal and act like a winter blanket. And finally, you can gently rinse the outside metal coil with a regular garden hose to relieve some of that thermal stress and wash away the dirt. But, and this is a massive qualifier, only do this if you know exactly how to shut the power off at that disconnect box on the wall first. Do not spray a hose into a live high-voltage appliance.
That feels like excellent life advice for just about any situation. Do not spray water on high voltage.
It truly is. And notice what is intentionally absent from that checklist.
Opening the electrical pan.
Opening the panel, touching the capacitor, using a stick to hit the fan blade. You check the simple, safe environmental factors. If the filter is clean, the coil is washed, the breaker is on, and the unit is still humming and failing, you turn it off at the thermostat and you call a professional.
We have to bring this all together. The underlying message for the summer, straight from the oppressive heat of Oklahoma, is this. If your outdoor unit hums, if it stalls, if it trips a breaker when the July heat is at its worst, do not keep forcing it.
Do not force it.
You have to respect the machinery. Catching a capacitor repair early, getting a technician out there to do a proper component autopsy, read the multimeter, check the contactor, and find the real clues that is a normal, relatively inexpensive service call.
Yes.
But waiting. Forcing the system to drag that heavy backpack sprint after agonizing sprint until the internal insulation melts and the compressor is completely cooked. That is a major financial disaster. You're trying to catch the first domino before it takes down the entire table.
That is the perfect summary. And honestly, it leaves me pondering a concept that extends far beyond just our residential air conditioners.
I am intrigued. Where does this take you?
Well, consider this. If a small, unassuming $20 capacitor acts as the critical canary in the coal mine for a massive, catastrophic machinery failure, it forces you to look around and wonder what else is out there.
Oh, wow.
What other hidden, inexpensive components in the incredibly complex systems we rely on daily are currently silently bearing the brunt of extreme stress?
Like what kind of systems?
Think about our vehicles, our modern smart home grids, our municipal water infrastructure, or the power grid itself. What tiny ignored parts are currently sitting in their own version of a 101-degree day, their margins completely removed, just waiting for that final push to start a massive chain reaction.
Wow. That is a slightly terrifying yet deeply important lens to view the world through. We are entirely surrounded by these fragile, invisible links that we take for granted every single day until they snap.
We really are.
Well, next time you're sitting in your living room on a sweltering July afternoon and you hear that ominous hum outside your window, you will know exactly the invisible physics happening inside that metal box. And more importantly, you'll know to shut it down and not ignore the warning signs. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Treat your systems with respect this summer, stay cool, and we will catch you next time.